Final Judgment. I don't. That's not my favorite map, you know. Like. Yeah. I be camping sometimes though. Sorry.
We're strong, we're aware, we're awake, we're active, and we're also very comfortable in the flow of these times. To be able to allow ourselves to adapt to what is happening around us while still maintaining our focus.
Team deathmatch. Enemy threat to the AO. Weapon lost.
There's no loss of time. Even in this flow,
Sorry?
tune in.
Oh, fuck. What is it? My TV's too loud.
You know, just in the design of the vehicle and how efficient they can be. Mediumship is a time where we have an opportunity to stand in the balance. And in that balance, your chest.
Oh my days.
Listen to what is being said from both sides.
Enemy UAV overhead.
And
holy.
the mind and the consciousness. It's very difficult to focus on two different things. It's very difficult to be completely balanced with two things that are in opposition with each other. Yes. So I wanted to take the time and the opportunity to recognize incredible
enemy at the run stop.
They be camping and shit though.
Setting the mic.
No.
There's a lot of busyness in the air. The frequencies are
What's that?
the channels are get botched up in the channels of what we're experiencing at the moment. It's interesting because when you're talking to someone physically, you can kind of
sound what? Finally got my first kill.
Enemy UAV overhead.
I'm gonna be camping though.
And I find that this is also that behind the scenes that seems to be a very strong tampering space for this current reality and how it likes to pick up strange synchronicities that don't necessarily connect with who we are. So what I'm saying perfectly is that you're just coming out of a
Got an enemy chopper. Arm up.
text message of exactly opposite.
Enemy's halfway there. Strap it up.
Digest, you know,
Right.
and
Enemy cruise missile incoming.
this power is the mediumship
Miss me, you fucker.
man, that means I would have to be you get to go in that mediumship is actually the perfect conduit
What
for
the
those
hell?
energies to communicate with each other
What
to
happened?
resolve whatever it is that they feel like they can't see. So a clear medium is what one would seek to be within themselves. So that way they can just say it like it is,
Say
and
word.
like it is, and there then becomes the trust because the moment is so electrostatic with the magic that makes things happen. There just has to be this trust at every moment that every moment you go into is going to be perfectly designed. You're going to be perfectly ready. But we have our tool belt, if you may. We have the things that actually help us be that way as much as possible. Because
On your side?
So I just want to say
Settings,
for
you
the
know?
record of everyone here that there are many of these spaces where we've had the opportunity to touch and connect and agree. And if you're ever feeling like, hey, I'm really downtrodden. That's the word. I really am not putting in reality right now. I feel like a lot of stuff is happening. It's taking me into all types of frequencies, and I need help, but I don't know who to call on. Look within yourself. Remember these moments, because these are the moments that are really good in power, and it's because they have the opportunity to create a complete spectrum of healers are you. So while the world waits,
it says read sound enable.
As that mediumship continues, because I always look every day to be clearer and clearer, to be more and more of myself. Just like the electronics, just like the responsibilities, the world, all the stuff that it has before us. I know me, and I've seen so much of me enough to take interest in to see more. That's how you have to treat yourself. I just realized that maybe there is some potential that you need to grow into, but you're doing exceptionally well. You need to really see this love and see what it really has, because my hunch is even when whatever people think is death occurs, you would stay in full touch with every single thing that you ever had come to.
I see you on mute still.
And it matters not if somebody came back and explained how they were capable of doing that they did it. It would just be a gift that is given to you because you knew that was something that you wanted. And so when we crystallize our highest desires, which we've discussed sometimes here on our bills from time to time, it's really about remaining in tune and remaining conscious of everything that we want to explore and everything that we want to know.
Turn the music off.
What I wanted to do now is I want to really give an analysis of what I see happening inside of the space and how I feel is best to navigate the space from its form. I like to do that from time to time. As I mentioned before, there seems to be a transition also taking place within Secret Energy and within Sovereignty Mentorship, where we're coming into our final refinements. Right? I'm super excited to what comes next. It's great to see everything coming back forward. And there also being a roadmap of creativity in front of us. Not so much as just this is a hard-coded path. It's more of that we just have everything that it takes to create what we want to do. When your needs begin to transfer into there's still a lot of needs that we all
Okay.
We see a lot of things and it can kind of get like, well, it can be chaotic, right? Sometimes you can stop addressing certain things, and then things start piling up on you. So it's like one thing is like, I'll get back to that later. And now one thing comes, and then now you have like 3 or 4 things that you have yet to address, and those things start to kind of weigh on you. And they also have a tendency to bring you more into the physicality, because it's like, okay, I gotta wake up into this and deal with this, versus maybe how your being and your consciousness may be sometimes, which is just off really in another vibration, another frequency. Sometimes we never think about, even when we go into our consciousness, we start taking breaths, we start meditating, we're already gone. Like, we're really not in things that are strictly about the physicality, the earth, government, all that kind of stuff. And so the intelligence and the wisdom that we've gained in this process is to still be able to check base from time to time and say, hey, this is moving, it's constantly changing. All of our teachings, which abide by the blueprint, they are flexible to what is happening, and if you know how to adapt, then it's a perfect fit. But in that process of actually learning,
it's working now?
Called adepthood, you still have to go through themselves. And so we're here to really function in the capacity of assisting in the lesson that you're going to have to go through. Right? So it's like the training for the test, but you still got to take the test. We can't take the test for you. That makes no sense. It makes no sense for your parents to have to go through all the process.
Yeah, just enjoy though. Just waiting on you, bro.
But then it's always something that just fucks with. Like, if somebody said that type of word is like bad because it's something, like, I don't know.
Yeah,
These days, I don't know what to think is true and what's not true.
I have really bad acid reflux on my phone, so I have to go to my page. But I bought it was worth the investments. I was realizing how much money I was spending on these, like to get the cases delivered. And I said to my husband, we should just install a filter that just does it automatically at our sink. So we got that.
Because it's kind of like, isn't that almost like alcohol?
Yeah.
Like some of the processes.
This map is ice. So see how many kills, bro. Yo, guess what? Like the other day when I was streaming, I got like 6 followers.
Good, right? Alright, cool.
Yeah, PlayStation.
Episode of Off the Record podcast. Today I got somebody in the building.
That's crazy.
I think some people consider controversial. I think. Some people also might just consider her very intellectually superior to most, and some people might just consider her as somebody who just spits the truth. I like to think of it as a lie.
The game started.
I usually agree with what you say, but I never would say all that. So that's why when I saw you do the Bolsa el podcast, and I was like, wait, does she do non-political stuff? Because again, I know a good amount, but I can't argue with you like some of these other people. But I do think what you say is important because from the black community, I feel like we only have the same voices regurgitating the same information. So I brought my ass all the way to Nashville.
Welcome to Nashville.
Yep, Nashville, Tennessee. First time here. It is hot.
You're in the hottest week.
In the midst of
And if you don't know by now, clearly my
team deathmatch. Here they come. Attack.
I think in regards to black folks, they're really used to right? So black people just like, it's race, and they're like, actually, I don't support black people. It's just so controversial. And so I just think it's because people are used to saying whatever they have to do to appeal to the social standard of the day. And I'm not part of that way. Like I'm not pledging a sorority, I'm not trying to try out for a cheerleading team, I'm trying to live my life authentically. And that's
where did that happen?
I have to reload.
It's funny because then people attack me and go, oh, you never go on black airways. And I go, why do you still watch black media hosts and see if they've ever invited me on their show? Try to make an appearance, like, yeah, like I talk to a lot of these people behind closed doors, like Charlene the God, for example, right?
Got you.
I
have to reload.
Why would you have me on the show to defend myself, right? And 100% I said to him, let me out. Oh, never happened. Right. So to me, it's they're getting pressure from management, which in my opinion is because people don't want the truth out there on their private time. Black Lives Matter. Couldn't speak English. Right now, big pharma vaccines. If they big pharma but for I think that's the reason why that people don't want the narrative to interrupt me.
Allied defense doing overhead. We're halfway there. Keep going. Allied white phosphorus inbound. Allied cruise missile launched.
Reloading.
It's so funny because you look back on your life and you think of all these moments. And I was thinking the other day, and I wrote my book about how I was bullied by black girls when I was in middle school. Right? Yeah, but what was interesting is not in elementary school, because in elementary school, if you recall, the system is you get into your homeroom assignment, and then you're just in classes with whoever your homeroom assignment is, right? So it's a mixed class. So my best friends in elementary school were Hispanic, black, Alex, and Leslie, right? Then we go to middle school, you just have to take a test, right? And suddenly it's state standards.
Reloading.
Into a class with all white people, right? So when you're in school, around you. You're not thinking about your
Reloading.
That was what I read in my classroom every day when I was in middle school. And this is black girls, there's a moment that I've never forget. And it's funny because they all became my friends eventually, but in middle school they were really
Enemy in the shop. Reloading.
Right, but I did, my grandparents, you know, my grandfather came around and I see movement. Was going up like this, and he moved us.
We are winning. It's the lead.
What the fuck? I only have 5, bro. You got 12. That's crazy still.
But she was here, and she said, but I don't know what that was what we had over here.
I have to update my gun. I have to go
My mom and I used to like kind of beat each other reading books, right? So I would race home and I would in the college, like super nerdy, but I like books, you know what I'm saying? And she table.
Yeah.
She was in a different cog than me.
I didn't see when though. Probably Monday.
And she called me over to the table.
What's going on?
She called me over to the table, so it was cool. Right? So at that time, the #1 song was Fabulous, Holla Back Youngin', right? I don't know if you decided the song right? I never listened to it a day in my life. I was literally reading Harry Potter, and I just was not into culture at all, right? She calls me over, she said,
I get it though.
Be honest.
By the way, I get
it.
Similar situation in terms of.
I've seen on stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't even a culture shock. I just wasn't interested in the music.
Yeah.
You know, full stop. I was interested in books. You know, it's kind of nerdy, but like I was interested in books. And so she calls me over to the cafeteria table and she says, Candace, if I was to say to you, holla, what would you say back to me?
These might be size.
Trap. This was a trap.
What you said?
Yeah, I don't believe it.
What?
I said, I would probably say hello. The whole table started laughing.
Yeah.
Like, it was just like to embarrass me. Like, you know, the whole table started laughing. So I didn't know what it was, went back to my table, went back home, learned the entire song, every single lyric of it. Because I was like, I just got made fun of in school for not knowing the song. But it's so emblematic. And eventually me and her became friends, actually. So it'd be funny if she sees this. Because, like, I eventually became friends with all of these girls. But it was constantly stuff like that, right? Like, you're not cultured enough, you don't know what's going on. And it's like, listen, guys, I genuinely like to read. I'm doing my.
Yeah, I couldn't see that still.
Like, so
people like that are usually shamed.
Yeah, you get picked on.
Yeah,
Right?
know,
So
it's been a while since I
problem
played.
that they're, even for, you know, the black kids that are out there that like, maybe there's some science nerds, some math dweebs, they're being told that you're not black enough. if you're not following, if you don't know that when I say holla, you have to say holla back, right? And so I look back on that time. There were so many instances of like the black girls in middle school picking on me just because I was in a different class, you know. And I think that is kind of been the story of my life. Like, you know, this is what I'm doing. I like politics. I like, you know, studying government stuff right now. I like looking into, you know, charities like Black Lives Matter. I understand finance and how money laundering works. But you know, people don't like that. They don't like that you're not into whatever the thing of the day is.
Starting
right?
soon, right? That's the superstore, no?
Already like instilling you, just like
we back then.
In the sense that because you weren't going with
Setting a claymore.
Cultural norms that usually either
Report ahead. Team deathmatch. We've got enemy inbound. Lock and load.
No, I think what it did was I tried to, once I got into high school, quiet the dweeb in me a little bit. So I got more in line with it. And I mean, and by the way, like by that time in middle school, I did fall in love with Jay-Z. So I started getting really into Jay-Z's music. Like, yeah, I love Jay-Z. I loved Jay-Z as an artist. I don't love him now as what he's become because I feel like the way that he lived his life and how he got out, he doesn't preach, right? I don't like people that don't.
Any rapper does that though.
I don't like people that don't preach what they practice, right? That's not how you got out. So that's not how you got out, right? You're a businessman, you're very smart. The whole entire Black album is a business album if you listen to it the right way. Yeah.
I mean, that's the common thing in rap.
Oh, it's second one. Lucky day.
They said Jeezy told you to try to die, but he told his son to go to college.
Yes, and that's my problem, is that they're not, it's like, why can't you preach to the black community what you practice? What would be so difficult about that? You know, because it's not cool, it's not going to sell records. It didn't sound corny to me when he was saying it on the Black Album, right? He talks about not being made a fool.
Setting a claymore.
I learned a lot from that album that I practice today, right? Not letting people take me for granted, you know, you're not going to...
Like Reasonable Doubt?
Reasonable Doubt is great, yeah.
Reloading.
Mostly about drugs.
Right, but he got out of it.
Right,
He started here, so he has evolved, and yet he won't allow the black community to evolve with him, and that is my problem with him today, right? Incredibly talented rapper, no question about it, but I just don't like when people don't give people the map that they follow.
You've lost the lead, soldier.
So, you know, yeah, but I eventually just kind of pulled back, I think, on that
what
side.
the fuck?
Point as people like an assignment to follow.
Yeah, I just realized that. That's crazy.
And then what ended up happening was that I would have some of the girls in like an art class where they don't like, it doesn't matter, they just put you in a random art class, and then
We've taken the lead.
Like, oh, Peter, you're actually really cool. Like I thought that you wanted to be white. And I'd be like, you pushed me for 4 years into a locker because you never thought to say hello or say anything, you know. And
I see ridiculous comments like that, like they're like, she just wants to be white.
What does that even mean, actually? Like, what does that mean, she wants to be white? Because what it signifies to me is that they have a concept of whiteness that actually that they're racist, black people, right? She speaks proper English, so she wants to be white. What are you saying? You're saying that black people can't speak proper English? She likes to read books.
Think, yeah, you want street steam?
She wants to be white, you know what I mean? Got an A on the test.
Yeah.
She wants to be white.
Lost the lead, soldier.
Changing that black people are less than white people.
It's kind of sad, but I'll even give you.
Yeah, I was kind of lame still.
I grew up in Jamaica. I used to get, so they grade you in Jamaica against your classmates. So rather than getting an A, they'd be like your first out of 30.
Oh wow.
So it's pretty. You know, if you know you're the dumbest motherfucker in class.
Kind of love that you are 30 out of 30.
Exactly. So I was first for like every year until I came here, and even part of culture shock, I realized the nerdy factor, because by the way, my name ended up being like DJ Academics, but like still, I used to like willingly put like phonics like into the slang just to not just seem like too square, because it's looked down on.
It is. It's looked down on, and so for me, I think what bothers a lot of people about me is that I have the audacity to be square. Like, I think it's hip to be square. There you go. Like, I'm out there gardening on my Instagram. Like, I'm doing stuff that I think is fun and that you might think is dirty. And I'm telling people, this is now an option.
It's like 35% whiskey.
Growing up that like weird stuff to get into it.
It's like kind of sweet. It's Lil Wayne. Whiskey still.
Dropping out like maybe they think it's off, but in the reality is 10 out of 10 times you devote yourself to academics, you will be successful, right? Your chance of becoming the next LeBron James, literally, virtually 0%. But yet we put so much energy into that.
I agree. I think unfortunately, when I've heard you talk, I hear you actually fight for.
That's a good question still, but like you setting it up, right? So you end.
But then when I hear people talk about you, they would say that you're against that. You know, one of the most popular, at least cultural discussions I see is on Summit. And I just remember the clips going viral, and I remember I saw the clip way before I saw the whole thing. And it was just like, it was framed like, TI checks, you know, just checks in someone because she was talking crazy. And really, you know, it wasn't until I watched the whole thing, I was like, to be honest, there's really two people on that stage that did something. And right.
And that's the whole thing. They don't want black people to see the whole thing. They look for these stupid cultural moments. Like, oh, that's it. That's all we need is that 5 seconds because God forbid Black America hears what everybody in that room heard. By the way, when that panel concluded, so many people came up to me in the audience and were like, "I've never heard you in full form. Why don't you do more stuff like this? Why don't you know?" I actually agree with a lot of what you were saying because when you hear me in a longer form, then you go, "Oh, okay. Actually, I realize the media keeps excerpting her and making her sound this way or that way." But why are they doing that? Is a bigger question. Why didn't they let that run in its entirety? Why weren't the headlines like Killer Mike and Candace, you know, have an incredible discussion about Black America, father absence, and all of these topics? Why did we let this fool, who is the biggest, he is such a fraud. T.I. is, before we started running, but that situation got me so angry because
academics. Do you follow academics?
Kanye had introduced us maybe the year prior. We had spoken on the phone for a lot of
he has a podcast
about what our opinions are politically. It was crazy because when I pushed my phone, he was like, "I agree with you on this. I agree with this," and agreed on everything we talked about. And no debate. The only thing he says is like, I just can't get behind Trump, right? That was the only thing he ever said on the phone. I can't get behind Trump. Every other topic we talked about Black America, he agreed with. He was so kind. We got on stage and he turned into like a performer. Like he literally put on a performer. So I say now, T.I. is a fraud. He's a very little man physically, and mentally he's a small man because to do that for what? Well, there was nothing. I was not jumping on stage being Trump, right? I was not there trying to be with Trump or against Trump. We were having a very real honest discussion that Black Americans deserve to have on that stage, right? That they deserve to listen to and develop opinions. And he halted it by,
I feel like you guys are talking before. I felt like he just out. And also, I really felt like he just completely hated everything you said.
Yeah, and he's a liar. He's a fraud. Writing headlines now about him and all the personal stuff he has going on. I'm like, I don't doubt anything because anybody that can move like that, you are elected people who say, I respect you for the reason even though I disagree. He gets out there and says what he doesn't believe, right? And tries to create a moment and he's a performer on stage. Like, what does the crowd want? How can I get the crowd to say stuff? Even if I have to say something. That is so toxic to the Black community. That is so toxic.
I think that was also around the time where there was many things that, I don't know if it's still happening now, but it was reloading. A lot where, incidents with, things were happening. Like, I would always see, like, a long caption that T.I. was right out. And I was like, clean kill. I was very interested, at least. Placing 18 on. I think it has been so interesting watching so many of those people who seemingly was trying to fight that fight. Now they're completely different. Right. They're coming. Not saying nothing.
Yeah.
That is the correct space for him because you're a joke. If you can spend hours and hours having a conversation like it just I don't understand people that he's not though. That's what I'm saying. It was a cool guy when I spoke to him but it's I'm not even sleep. You know what I mean? On the other hand, I didn't know.
Allied cruise missile on the way. Enemy at the cafe.
He's so knowledgeable. Read all the same books. You will see him putting out different ideas.
UAV online.
But I can't not love Killer Mike. Like Killer Mike, honestly, I wish I could work with him in a bigger capacity because I think that he is just the way he lives his life. It's just he's got his lungs, he's got friends from all over, and he's authentic. The black community is regularly being served the TIs. That's the problem. The TIs who will get out and say whatever to you when a microphone is in their face, knowing fully well they don't live that way and they don't believe that.
Yeah. I think Ti has good intentions. I would hope. You know, from what you're describing there. No. From what you're describing there, I mean, like, I have to reload. Like, we talked about some of the same, you know, ideologies that either we might share or mine, and you're like, you never talked to that.
No, I have such disdain for little men. I really do. And I'm not, I mean, like, he's a small person. Like, there's something, like, as a man, you don't do that. You know what I mean? You don't just be like, no, I disagree with that. He literally got up and pretended like, it was wild.
I thought that would have put you in a lot of conversations that would include and just be directed towards black culture, because a lot of it does happen to if you're having a conversation with someone. And I've done this on podcasts before, and I'm like, you know what? I'm actually thinking about, like, if the election was today, I might vote Trump. And it's like, before this stuff happened, yo, you will sell it. Like, the conversation stopped. It's not like, okay, let's do the cafe. You know what I mean?
Totally lying. Yeah, they're scared to be trashed in the comments. They're scared to use a platform. You know, where do I go from here if I have an original platform?
Reloading.
What you're seeing is cowardice.
Enemies here.
Enemy at the bridge. A situation for you where you're like, you know, we've seen in some situations Twitter has silenced.
Enemy precision airstrike inbound. Take cover.
Has that ever been political stuff on my Instagram? I've been ran away from it by the platform because they're gonna go through it and comb through it. And a lot of times, if you're not saying something that's
enemy package inbound.
So I don't want my page handled there because I really, like, you know, I'm running the business at least on Instagram. I don't want to mess my stuff by even trying to, you know, go to that route. So I just stay away from it.
You know, I think for me, do you have kids?
No.
Okay, so I have, obviously, I'm about to talk
Reloading. Allied cruise missile on the way.
Is contributing to a world that is being built that I don't believe in, and that could potentially be harmful, that my child is going to have to thrive in. So case in point, my
enemy gunship inbound. Take cover.
Pipeline right now. Against the trans agenda, okay? And so the agenda is children that right now they're passing through legislation.
I like this side on the way.
And then they start saying, teachers are teaching little kids that are confused.
Like,
they're
coming also from these
It is. The Department of Education is sending these narratives down. I cover this extensively on my show. This is why I'm interested in politics, because politics is shaping our world today. When you went to high school, how many trans kids did you graduate with?
Enemy cluster strike incoming.
Zero. I
Take cover.
In our class, 1/3 of them. It's insane. In some graduate classes, 30%, 40% of kids that have gender issues. This is not normal, right? But they're being taught that, and they're learning it because they're learning in kindergarten that they can do whatever they want, and if they're in classes, all this money that is going into funding these programs. This is what happens when the federal government takes over education, right? They decide what you're going to learn. Similarly, at the exact same time is critical race theory, right? You didn't grow up learning to hate white people. I didn't grow up learning all that. I grew up in a very mixed town, you know, in Connecticut, and we just didn't learn it.
UAV overhead.
She pays for her kids to go to a school, $3,000, right in New York City. And they in their class, they allow during Black History Month, all of the white kids have to go to the auditorium I can name the high school, but I'm not going to do it out of respect for her, right? And just say, you don't know what it's like as a black person, blah, 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 blah. That blows my mind. Like, the concept of that happening,
I mean, that was my
Good work. They don't know what he did.
That people are understanding, first and foremost, the transgender is
trash.
because these kids are big farm customers for life, right? They are putting these children that stop them from going to puberty, right? Some parents, right? They've always tried to do something really. You can't just stop and skip puberty. There are so many detrimental things that happen because of this. Beyond that, they have depression pills. They get older.
Shit.
Because you just need to get the boobs. You just need to get this.
Wait.
I mean, the LGBT agenda has been insane all around us.
How did it get to even, like, you know, where it's involving kids? I remember, and what I would think is, like, you know, transphobia is just, I would be thinking that they're just fighting the same way. Like, I didn't know about it.
Bro.
Influencing young children in the classroom to believe that they can pick their gender. That is the new thing, that you can pick your gender. You cannot pick your gender, okay? You can get a bunch of cosmetic surgeries. You always have that option.
Kid
right?
house. Okay, smart one.
You can always get a bunch of cosmetic surgeries to look how you want to look, but you ultimately cannot change your gender. No matter how many surgeries you get to look like Candace Owens, you're not going to be sitting across from me when pregnant.
How do you feel when people have, like, I'm always confused, like, when somebody's Twitter and I see, like, 5 different pronouns.
That's a part of it. That's the agenda. When did this trend start? Of putting your pronouns, you know, to be sensitive and make sure you talk about the right pronouns.
FP5.
If you have a penis, you are a he. Okay. If you have a vagina, you are a she. That makes me controversial.
Yeah, by the way, that is controversial.
Yeah.
I don't know nothing about that.
I'm not a biologist now, so I don't know what you're talking about.
But like people like me, right? Like it's almost like that sounds. What you're saying sounds pretty logical.
It is logical.
But then for me, I now think I'm like, maybe I just don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
maybe I only know what's going on with
it's mental illness is what's going on, right? We are now having government-sanctioned mental illness, and they're trying to make people crazy. There is nobody dumber, just so you know, in case you get children that are growing up. That's the whole point. That's why they need parents. They need adults tell them right from wrong, right? Yeah. When I used to babysit to put myself through school, I had a little girl who believed she was a mermaid, right? She would get it up, she would say to me, I don't want to get out, Candace. I'm a mermaid, and she would be dead serious, like trying to argue with me. Imagine a world in which I looked at that little girl, she's 3 years old, and I said, okay, you're a mermaid, you can pick your species. And that's what we have now, people that are picking their species. Did you know this? Go on TikTok, have some fun. People that identify as fish, there are people that identify as dogs. I mean, I think Rachel Dolezal deserves to be revisited, because if people are saying they can pick their gender, why can't she pick her race?
Team deathmatch. Enemy UAV overhead.
Is known as a mental
Enemy UAV overhead.
Taking fire!
Gender dysphoria for him growing up. And rather than
I have to reload.
change who they are. By the way, if you watch
Enemy at the yellow
my
building.
500-pound wife, half the time
Halfway point. Air strike. Get down.
Son of a bitch, bro. What the fuck?
We're all molested. And I'm not saying every the person that you see that that, you know.
Aiming ain't that good. Okay, this wasn't moving. Why?
Forget the score. Fight for what is yours. Enemy VTOL in the AO. Overhead.
That guy was good. Why? I feel like they cheated or something, bro. What the fuck?
It's crazy for me to start asking you to use my fish pronouns, right? I'm not going to play the crazy game with people. I'm happy to play a game because you can't change your name, right? But, you know, I don't know anything about childhood. Do you know anything about Caitlin?
You're not working tomorrow, no?
Caitlin is a true case of gender dysphoria, which, by the way, is a very small percent of the population. It's always recognized that truly are born with gender dysphoria, right? And it's a very sad thing to go through.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck happened still. It was fleeking again.
Now life is great.
Joe right now still.
Like it's a lot to go through. You have to be on drugs for life, very serious drugs for life. Of course, it's going to affect your mental faculties and your mental capacity. But again, we should be allowed to talk about this stuff. And a great example that I use in talking about the trans debate or the trans discussion is I wrote my book extensively about from the time that I was 18 to 22. I had anorexia, right? It was a mechanism for me. It was a control mechanism for me because of stuff that I had suffered through high school. And I can't imagine a world in which having anorexia or having body dysphoria, right? Being a tiny girl that was, you know, maybe 110 pounds.
I hate these maps,
right?
still.
Would you ever say to me, oh, well, yeah, you are fat?
Oh, nice.
No,
They changed it? Oh, you are not part of
you
it.
acknowledge that anorexia actually is, in fact, a mental
What happened?
illness. It's a mental illness. You have to get better. You're not going to treat it by saying, oh, well, every time you see anorexia, you just pretend that they're fat. And actually, what we're going to do is we're going to allow that 110-pound girl to get gastric bypass surgery so that she can't eat anymore. You would say that's absolutely insane. We're not going to, we have to tell her she's anorexic. Anorexia is in fact a mental illness and she has to get better, right? For some reason, people come in, they want to chop their dicks off, and we can't say that, no, you should not do that, right? We need to figure out what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Is there something underlying? What caused the anorexia?
Like you have to run, like you be running looking for people, and when you find them, they just kill you.
Thoughts on people who identify as lesbians or gays? Like, you know, again, this is just, I'm asking what's on the
Well, that's a sexual preference, right? That's not, to me, it's like...
You don't believe that's a mental illness?
Well, some people would argue that, you know, that people choose to be gay or lesbian through things they went through. So there's a lot of examples of lesbians who come out and have spoken about how they were blessed with their children, like Ellen DeGeneres, Melissa Etheridge. But I have said this for years. I believe that the LGBT community needs to stand up and say goodbye trans community, right? To allow them to tack this letter on when you're talking about putting children on drugs like Lupron, which they use to chemically castrate prisoners, okay? That is what they're putting children on because they woke up and said, Mommy, I feel like a girl today. Do you know how much stupid stuff comes out of the mouths of children? You don't authenticate that stupidity, right? You say, oh, well, actually, you're a boy, so go put your boy clothes on. And suddenly we're trying to pretend that being trans is exactly like being a lesbian or being gay. What you do in the privacy you want, if that's your sexual thing, okay, fine. You know, transitioning people
We've got enemy inbound. Lock and lock.
and creating a medical vision that they can transition, getting a bunch of surgeries, and they're mutilating their bodies.
Enemy in the
I really don't know where I'm wrong on this, because I just can't understand, right? Because, like, I've never gone through this, I don't know what they're feeling, but,
I'm outside of the map.
You've lost the lead, soldier.
once somebody allows something to be a social construct, it means that, hey, society can kind of shape and mold it into what it
There's no such thing as truth, and that's why I said that lands you into a society. This is the danger. You're on the pipeline, you're already seeing it. What's going to follow transgender is going to be pedophilia, right? Because if there's no such thing as reality, then
Check fire!
I'm not 35, right? Do you understand how dangerous it is to start experimenting with ideas when you pretend that there's no such thing as objectivity, that there's no such thing as a man and a woman, and a child and an adult? Starting to hear people start to argue that pedophilia is a sexual preference, right? That it's a sexual preference, and that people should be able to decide, and that's what I see coming down the pipeline when you're trying to tell children that 4 or 5 years old, they can decide that they want to catch their tail, that they don't want to have a penis, and they don't want to go through puberty, and they don't want to be perfect. That's the children have permission. Down the pipeline, you're seeing it now. You might not be seeing the headlines, but I've been seeing them of professors at universities trying to make the argument that pedophilia is a sexual preference.
I'm convinced,
this is like,
bro.
wow. Could you imagine you establish these drugs and how much money you make? Like I said, from the time you start your puberty blockers, from the time that you die, you will be on medicine, you will be getting big pharma gets so paid. The government benefits because these people are basically
Setting a mine.
Right? That they're the government always wants a system of slavery. Always. This is why I speak out against Black Lives Matter, right? This is why I speak out against the government garners more power when the individual loses power, right? When the individual comes to the government for a paycheck, when the individual needs to come to the government and say, well, it's cover what you're trying to do, transitioning parts of money for this. It really costs you a transition, right? You become a big part of your life, but you also become What do you think the CRT pushes? Well, how stupid. When you send your child to school, that they have classes about gender, and they have classes about race, to learn that, teaching science and math, right? I do not need you teaching my child that is not, they know it's not going to understand.
They usually figure out at graduation first, like.
Nobody in the world needs a goddamn job. Let me tell you right now. When you're in this country, ironically, AC just broke. You see how hot it is in Tennessee right now?
Oh my days.
Somebody get the gender, somebody take it over. Like, this is the government is making you an idiot, and the problem like you're also racking up a ton of bills to become an idiot, and then you become what? Bitter and angry because you're arrogant. I'm appalled. I have and this kid that I went to high school 3 degrees outside.
Yeah, another relief. What's the name of that degree they used to have? It was like an African I had that Rutgers. Kids you not. I was like, yeah,
Enemies halfway there. Rest up.
my personal opinion on the we thought she could have done something different.
Enemy UAV overhead.
Would have stopped him from dying. My personal opinion is that what Derek Chauvin was charged for is absolutely wrong. That's another part of the lies. Because of all the lies, the
What's that?
Because the Black Lives Matter cover all aspects of what happened. Community members, behind you. Black Americans see it. And all the media.
Fucker.
The media.
I definitely think that's the I believe that
Enemy
part.
personal radar in the air.
The other part that I think you can bring down to light, like, you know, saw the wild videos like Shaden and stuff where
Hostile.
Black Lives Matter.
We're losing this fight.
Video that made its way around the world, and then the government allowed
We're in the lead. Solid work.
and then it leaked out finally, and we had to cover it. I'm like, this is insane.
Alright. Yeah, that's a good bit. Yeah.
And I felt sorry for the time.
It's good. Good stuff.
I walked out of that place and it was like being a
Oh, bro, because she said that.
I expected, even I had fallen, victim
see you next week,
to
then.
the media narrative in a way because they had villainized me so much
nice.
for talking about the George Floyd case with just the facts that when I walked in, we pulled up to his house and the cameras. Dude, I didn't. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I definitely got
scared of those moments.
I was. I wasn't scared. Yeah, I was pregnant the whole time we filmed.
You got security, right?
Yeah, we had security. Yeah, I mean, we had to have security because it's like, it's an autonomous zone where he died. It's like crazy. There's no police allowed. But
you move around with security like just regularly because I feel like they say they hate you.
Yeah, but I don't. It's not real hate. It's like I said, it's like Sheena hate. Like they're gonna follow
yeah.
that. Like, well, actually, if we get an art class together, you're actually gonna like it. You know what I mean? But it's people are going to be stunned when they see the documentary. I walked into the house being terrified. I walked out being like, those were amazing people, and I want to have a relationship with them and help them in a larger capacity. And it changed my heart about the situation. And like I said, my heart goes out to both sides, and that's how you know you've done a documentary right, when you walk away from it and you're not like. I walked into it like you're either Team George Floyd or you're Team Derek Chauvin, and I think when every person watches it, they're gonna walk away, and they're gonna be like, wow, just wow.
Do you think people have kind of awoken to at least not just unilateral trust of Black Lives Matter because of maybe some of the things you said or at least brought to light?
For sure, and that was one of the good things that to see that people watching Patrice pretend that she was scared. I didn't even know she was in the house. I just literally rang the doorbell. We wanted to visit all the properties that were listed and, that as purchased, in the last however many years.
Like I was kicking out the door. I ain't gonna lie.
8 months pregnant, you know what I mean? Like, hello, hi. I was basically like back in middle school. What do you say when someone's calling back? Hello. Is there anyone available I can speak to? I mean, that's who I actually am. I would never be a person that would show up and be banging on somebody's door. I had no idea. Like I said, there was just one white security guard outside, and he didn't say anything. He didn't say, like, we like you to leave, nothing. So as soon as we said, is there anyone available we can speak to about this property purchase, Is
it listed as a public property since it's like an organization, right? It should be like, if it's like public.
So that property actually wound up being, so there were a bunch of properties that we were visiting, and I was actually confused when I walked up to it. I thought that was the one that she had spoken out against and said was the community house. We went to that one right after.
Yeah.
They're both just mansions in LA. Like, you wouldn't be able to differentiate because there's no community house. They're just mansions, right? So you go to the property, and the guy heard me ask the question. He went inside and got on the phone. He was like, oh, maybe he's calling someone down, right?
Yeah.
And he came back out, and he didn't say anything, and I was like, sir, that's when you heard me say, like, if you want us to leave, we're not here to harass anybody, like, we'll leave. We just want to know if there's anyone we can speak to.
Yeah.
And he didn't say anything, so we left. That was it. And then 10 minutes later, we're then going no, nothing. Then 10 minutes later, we're going down the hill, which is to the other property, which is the official Black Lives Matter property, where she hired her mother and her brother to work. Come on now. Come on now. And no one answered that one. And by the time we were sitting in the car, she was on Instagram fake crying, pretending that she had survived some attack. And I was are you kidding me? I couldn't have been nicer.
It's the first time I've seen like social media grieving. Usually when I see, and by the way, it's unfortunate I get so much stuff from the shade room, especially when I'm watching you and Cardi B go back and forth.
Yeah.
I like Cardi B.
I liked her in Love and Hip Hop a lot.
Why do you guys go back and forth? And also, I don't even think you guys really go back and forth about actual, intellectual ideas. It's just kind of like...
She tries to play on the court of intellectuality, and that drives me crazy, right? So let me tell you when Cardi B caught my attention, right? I don't care. Cardi B, you want to rap, you want to do whatever you want to do, whatever. I liked her better in Love and Hip Hop when she had bad teeth, personally, because she was fun. She seemed happier in a weird way. And, sometimes more money, more problems, things get more serious. I get it. But, when she was selected by the Biden administration to answer questions on behalf of the Black community, and I knew what he was going to represent. So all of these taxes of course, they sat down and they think we're stupid, right? Do you think of all of the people that the Biden...
I thought she started to speak, and then people kept looking at her for answers.
No, this is when he was running, okay? Talking about when he was running, when she had those super long nails, and she interviewed him, and during COVID, no one could get an interview with Biden, and they picked Cardi B to interview Biden. Remember that? I think she was wearing like a green...
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Okay, so think about that moment. Joe Biden will give interviews to no one. He's claiming COVID, blah, blah, blah. He ain't not a single freaking rally. Cars honking in front of him for a little bit. Someone on his team decides that Joe Biden should allow Cardi B to interview him. Now, what is the reason for that? This is how I think, right?
Tapping the culture?
Yeah. Black people are stupid. You don't need to talk to them about any of these. Why didn't they pick me? Why didn't they? Forget me. Black community maybe doesn't like me at that time talking about Black Lives Matter. You don't have Killer Mike. Why don't you pick a smarter representative from the Black community than Cardi B, okay? And she acted like Cardi B. Like, there were some serious questions that should have been asked in that moment. We knew, at least on the conservative side, right? She did. She was like, super long nails, about, she didn't even have to Fine, I like Cardi if she's on a podcast about hip-hop. But when you are driving Black Americans to vote for this candidate, and now Black Americans, what's up with these gas prices? I can tell you what's up with them. He was always going to do this. If you understood who Joe Biden was and knew his record, if you had someone out there actually trying to tell you this is coming around the corner, they had you, again, going back to Malcolm X's quote, believing that Donald Trump was your enemy. You guys were all living better under Donald Trump. You don't want to admit it. You don't want to say it, right? You were all living better under Trump. You had jobs. The gas prices were the lowest they've ever been. You were living good. The media said, hate him.
I ain't gonna lie, I want my stocks to go back, man. That's why I gotta get him out of here.
He intentionally crashed the market. We were telling you that this dude was a socialist. We were telling you that he was going to shrink the middle class. He was literally installed to shrink the middle class, right? He all this green energy.
Some people would argue, though.
All he has to do right now is turn the pipelines on. We literally, America, we have our own gas here. All it is to survive on that. Green energy. We want you to have electric cars. Can you afford a $55,000 electric car? If you had an intelligent person that was interviewing him, okay, Black America may have seen that coming around the corner. I saw it coming around the corner. But, oh gosh, he was behind Trump. Okay, well then I don't think I would give you a vote. You're taking $105.
Wait. Honest question. Do you really think that? So if some people I hear argue that, they would say, well, economy was going to crash anyway.
No.
Or
how can you just say it's such foolishness? You just keep thinking every time.
It's one of those things where they're like, hey, listen.
It's stupidity.
It happened while
it was just
Biden's in
amazing
office.
when Trump was in office for all 4 years, and then right when Biden got in, instantly gas prices went up. And,
Yeah,
and I love the lie of the Putin war. They were going up like crazy before Ukraine and Russia were ever even fighting. And they think you're stupid, right? So the idea is Black America is stupid. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep toting out whoever we think is popular in Black America during election time, never call them ever again, but expect Black Americans to vote that way. So in this election, it was Cardi B. Before that, when Hillary was running, she touted out Jay-Z and Beyonce, talking about why I don't like them, right? Because
Hillary pulled out the hot sauce out the purse. That was crazy.
And Charlemagne let it fly. He basically, what did he say? He was like, well, some people might say you're a painter. I would have been like, why did you do that?
Biden was wild too. It's like if you ain't black, you can't vote for them. Like, damn, goddamn.
Charlemagne let that fly too.
Hey, I mean, you touted I think you called the like right? Like,
yeah.
Just black people at least, just exiting, just unilaterally just voting for Democrats. I agree with that too. Why do you think that? It's just always, it feels like a snowball effect as soon as there's a major election coming up and just there's no voices that's really taking both sides and comparing to really make a legitimate choice. I'm not saying you gotta go either way. It just always feels like, hey, the race is decided in the Democratic primaries. And once you get the guy, basically that's the guy, we don't care about what the other guy says.
Because independent thinking is not popular in the Black community and people don't like to hear that, but it's the truth. We're so wrapped up in culture and in what cultural icons think, the idea, what kind of a community, is calling Beyonce queen. Then when Beyonce queen says vote for Hillary, you do it, right? Because you actually think she's a queen. This is why people need to go back to the Bible. The Bible talks about the harms of idolatry, and this is why, right? Hollywood is evil. The concept of idolizing people, you can like their music, but stop idolizing them. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta compartmentalize. You can say, I like Cardi B on Love and Hip Hop. I did, I liked her. She's very funny on Love and Hip Hop, actually. She was very funny on Love and Hip Hop, right? But I'm not listening to a word she says when she and talks to freaking Biden. But the Black community came in, they just go, oh, well, this is what we're all doing, I guess. And people got on the airwaves, they don't ask them difficult questions, and then they just go, oh, this is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to vote Democrat for no reason. It's never worked for us, but we're just going to keep doing it anyways.
Well, some might say, both things could be true, though, in the sense of, for example, they would say what you're saying is kind of doing what they've done in LeBron, shut up and dribble, right?
He should shut up and dribble because he won't actually have an intellectual discussion. So when somebody says shut up and dribble to LeBron or shut up and rap to Cardi B, there is a way to say, okay, I'm not just this and I want to be authentic and have these discussions. If any of them are being authentic, they would be the Killer Mikes. Killer Mike talks to people on both sides. He does. You can see that he's trying to actually present both sides of the argument. Where in Cardi B's entire repertoire has she presented any other thing but vote Democrat? That makes her a billboard. That makes her an advertisement and a marketing campaign.
Does she need to, though? Imagine if she's like, hey, listen, people like me who think like me, and if they're influenced by me, at least I'm in that position to talk to them.
But did she explain why she said vote for Democrat? No, because there's no reason to. There's not even one reason. Actually, a colleague of mine wrote a book called Reasons to Vote for Democrats. It's 100 empty pages because there's not one. There's not one reason. Okay? There literally isn't. If you're a Black American, you're voting Democrat, you're out of control. It means you know nothing about the way you're living, how you got to where you're living, what's going on outside. It's political ignorance for Black Americans to vote for Democrats. It really is.
It might be a few things. It might be different.
Give me one. Let's do it.
It depends. I've always said, for me, voting is always going to come down to those major, or it might be just one issue that you really care about.
Give it to me.
The more and more I've gotten, some type of money, I care about taxes a lot more. I care about the stock market.
Right.
Now, before, if we're doing an election where, and say at that time I only care about social issues, like what's going on in the Black community in terms of
Help me socially. Tell me one reason to vote for a Democrat because of social issues.
Well, it could be like some of these issues where they're saying that where the police is just killing Black people.
It's not true.
Well, again, if you think that.
So the reason that you just gave me is because you believe lies and you're emotional. And that's correct. Those are two reasons that he can put in the book, because you believe lies or you're emotional. Those are good reasons to vote for Democrats. There is not one valid reason, if you want to see yourself go from point A to point B, or to rise in this society, that any Black American will vote for a Democrat. There just isn't.
Well, when Trump ran, I know a lot of people didn't vote for him, even if they didn't know policies at all, because they would say, well, Trump appears or represents, or he's represent these bigoted people, right?
What are we talking about? These are all emotional, illogical reasons to not vote for somebody that you are living well under, right? You kept saying Trump was a dictator, he was going to be a dictator. Look at what the freaking Democrats have done since they've been in office, right? They've literally, the Biden administration is suing to remask your children. You know what I mean? It's like they don't want you to have any individual powers. What did Trump do when he was in office, okay? What policy did he implement? I don't want to hear about your feelings.
Well, some people might say he was trying to repeal Obamacare, and some people might say that. Yes, that's a good
thing. Obamacare is bad for the black community. Just because it's called Obamacare doesn't mean it's good. It is the worst health insurance ever, okay? It is trash health insurance, and it forces...
Don't they say money though? No, I don't say money because they think
this is the concept of welfare being good. Welfare is never good, right? This is a big, great illusion to the black community. Since welfare was implemented, trillions of dollars have been spent in the black community, and the black community is poorer today, okay, than we were before it began. Do you understand? Welfare is not good for the black community. So when you see people going, oh, they're going to take my this or they're going to take my benefits, yes, that's a good thing, okay, because what it basically does, okay, is it says to black Americans, so let's say you're in a household and you accept welfare of some description. Let's say $200 a month you accept in welfare, okay? Mm-hmm. Great, awesome, you need $200 a month to feed your family. Then what the government says to you is that, okay, well, if you don't marry the father of your children, we'll double that. We'll be $400. Okay, so that's the first thing. This is the number one thing that contributes to poverty, is not being in a two-parent household. So when you look at people that are explaining to you like the differences in a white person household and a black person household, and they say to you, oh, the gap is like 40% in how much they earn, that gap virtually disappears when they're married, right? So if you look for at a married black household and a married white household, economically they're the same. This is the biggest contributor to poverty in the black community, is that we have broken down families.
That's one of the things I do like that you speak about. Like,
it's reinforced in the music, it's reinforced everywhere, right? So just going back to the welfare point. So the government then says to you, okay, $400 a month, again, I'm making up numbers here, but you can not make by yourself. So let's say, okay, I got $400 a month, I want to get this job, and this job is going to pay me $30K, right? The government says, oh, no. If you make $30K, we're going to take this $400 away from you for a month, right? So you're literally incentivizing people to try not to do better in their lives because they don't want to get rid of the free benefits that they're getting, whether it's food stamps, whether it's $400 a month, whatever it is, all these different welfare benefits, because they're afraid to do better, right? Because the government penalizes you for getting off of welfare, right? It has created a system of fatherless absence. It has created a system of welfare homes, and literally, the proof is in the pudding. Black Americans were outpacing white Americans in terms of economic growth during the Jim Crow era in the 50s, okay? Think about that. When we had actual real segregation, Black Americans were outpacing whites in terms of economic growth until Lyndon Baines Johnson, who was the most on-record racist president that we've ever had, introduced all of these welfare acts. And he was on the record saying, I'll keep these N-words going Democrat for the next 200 years. And by golly, he's been right so far. That's the sad part. Is if you learn your actual history, you will learn that this was methodical, it was Machiavellian, is exactly what the racist Democrats intended for Black America. To constantly have your hand out, asking for more, and believing that the other guy is the enemy.
Could I play devil's advocate for a little bit? Because I know I get flack for this, right? So I was born in Jamaica and I came over here. And I've said this a few times, and Black community hates it. Now, it was like a popular guy, his name was Tariq Nasheed. He's now, it's kind of like almost created like different categories in the Black community, which is, he's like foundational Black Americans. Because it's one of those things where I remember saying, well, when I came over here, like, we literally had nothing. And I had to work to get everything I had. I'm like, a lot of people who were here before me had more advantages. And apparently they look at me and they're like, well, you don't know what slavery did to them, and it's one of those things. And I'm like, you know what?
You're right.
Yeah, got it.
They hate it. Why are African immigrants coming from way poorer countries more successful in America than Black Americans are?
They usually try to tell me, go back. And I'm like, no, go back.
Who are the most successful Black people in America? Caribbean Americans, Nigerian Americans, okay? Go look at their culture. Go into their households and see in Nigeria.
What do you think is the difference? Because, like, I've invited even Tariq Nasheed to have a conversation about it, not because I'm just saying, nah, fuck whatever you're trying to say. I want to get to understand, because he's like, Caribbean immigrants like myself, we came and taken advantage of something they've like worked hard for.
And how many excuses can we
come up for? I feel like this, like ungrateful at that point.
How many excuses can we continue to come up for and keep trying to blame slavery about? Like, none of us grew up as slaves.
Slavery usually is, that's what I'm saying about the welfare.
You don't understand what, no, so that you need to explain why black Americans were doing better during Jim Crow in the 1950s, economically outpacing whites, okay, which completely debunks his entire argument, okay, and then things got worse, it's a fact, things got worse following the 1964 proliferation of all of the welfare implementation. Welfare destroyed the black community. That is what happened, okay? That is literally what happened. Literally better. After slavery, black Americans were getting married. They were on their own 2 feet because they weren't being given handouts, okay? Handouts are like when a person on the playground says, come, I have candy. It's like, you have candy to your child on the playground, but this person is a predator. The government is a predator. Ronald Reagan had, a famous quote where he said, when the government comes knocking, you should not answer the door. And it's the truth. When they say, I'm here to help, they're here to hurt. It's the government. They do not want to help you get better in society. They don't want you to be better than the government in society. And black Americans haven't gotten this yet. That's why I say we are so ignorant about our own history, because you would understand that the entire argument about black Americans suffering still the ills of slavery gets completely debunked when you understand that middle period, black Americans were doing better following slavery, and then things suddenly got dramatically worse.
I'll still play devil's advocate though, because I think this is a good conversation. I think if slavery then is being used, they're going to say, well, what you're talking about, you're right in the sense of the lack of a family structure, but really the government did that systematically by taking a man out of, but not by welfare, through the prison industrial complex.
Well, through welfare, right? So I believe that the breakdown of the family, which the statistics show, sorry to have I wrote about this in my book, start to show that right after they started incentivizing black women not to marry the father of their children, this is when it all started, right? So you had broken homes. Now, in terms of what you're talking about, every other ill in black society is related to father absence. When you talk about the crime rate, look at the people that are in prison. You say, oh, it's a lot of black men. Okay, well, how many of them have grew up with a father at home? People that commit crimes. This is our astounding. These people aren't coming from 2-parent households. They're coming from broken households, being raised by one mother, and they don't have a father in their lives. It is a poison to the black community not to have strong men. And it is why another reason, going back to what I was talking about before, I just got against transgender. I hate the fact that right now they are trying to make black men more feminine. There is this push to make black men more feminine.
Do you think it's just black men or just men?
It's all men, but we're talking about black people. But because we are already suffering from this fatherless absence, this additional slight to try to make our men act like bitches, for better or worse, really bothers me. I cannot stand it. I literally, it angers me so much because I'm so educated about what they've already done and how successful that campaign to remove men from black children's lives has been. I mean, you go into California and the majority of black boys can't pass a basic reading exam. You go into any of the inner cities, across 5 schools in Baltimore, they couldn't find a single child that was proficient in reading and writing. Okay, so what is he proficient in? These kids turn to the streets. When you don't have a father in your home because you're still going to pursue that fraternity somewhere else. You're still looking for dad. Kids have a natural craving to have a mom and a dad. So when you come from a broken home, they turn to the streets. Maybe they're turning to teachers, whatever it is that they're looking for that fraternity, and they turn to culture. Suddenly they put on their headphones, and this is where they're zoning out. They want to be a thug. They want to be on the streets. Like the absence of men and real manhood, and people standing up for their children.
Practice while you can.
Cancer in the black community is getting worse because there's just
Resurgence.
It's
in the safe zone. You got gas closing in fast.
You get high crime rate, you get the baby mama drama, all this stuff, and then at the end of it, they tell you the people that sold you all this stuff, right? You want to talk about why
Fallen allies will redeploy for as long as you remain alive. Earn points to bring them back to the action faster. Positive ID on the bounty target. Let's make this quick.
Don't marry your baby mama. Talking about families being together, right? This is not hot for the government. This is not what they want on the day have managed to enslave Black America right after they freed them. That's really what it was. So people that are talking about this are constantly
I got contacts.
They're fighting for our race to wake up and understand that we have been under and right? Like, why on purpose would Joe Biden want to see Cardi B? It's no, she's totally like me. Probably don't know. I like her. I think she's funny. It really is not a person.
Super.
It's clown world. Right? Because they actually looked at you and they said, she's so stupid, right?
Or whoever on the Republican side, because they might look at it like, well, you're black, you're a woman, like you could appeal to certain type of demographics.
I have never accepted a position on the Trump campaign. I have never been paid by the RNC. These are all the rumors that are out there about me. I've never been paid by the RNC, the Republican Party, in any capacity, and I've never, ever been paid by the Trump campaign or have accepted anything from the Trump campaign. I just say how I feel. You know, that's it. And I've met Trump, of course. I've met Trump. I've met his entire family. I have a great relationship with them. I think they're wonderful people. I really do. I think, you know, Eric Trump, they're incredibly loyal people, and I think that they try to do the best that they could with the black community, but it was difficult. And, you know, they have definitely come to me in privacy being like, what can we do to help when the help is being rejected? And I said, the truth is, Black America needs to help itself. I don't believe that you guys need to be offering any handouts. Black America has to wake up. A wake up is not something that a government can give you. And that was my answer to them, you know? So there's always been these rumors that, like, Candace is enriching herself by accepting money from Republicans. Not a single dollar. Not even on Fox News. Let me clear that up, too.
Practice what you can.
Get paid by Fox News. I've never accepted a single red cent from Fox News, ever. I go on there, I'm like, not 1 cent. These are all just rumors. It's like they just... Not 1 red cent my entire career.
I don't think but you do fall under that category, and it happens to be because you're black. They're like, if she's saying
enemy
what
soldier
the masses
nearby
aren't saying, she's being used as a puppet by the other side to dangle in front of black people to be like, well, here's one black person that.
How's it help them?
Like you know, there was like two ladies who were like, they were for Trump, and people were like, oh, they got
They were officially on the Trump campaign, talking about Diamond and Silk. Okay. But they started making their videos before they got invited to go on the Trump campaign. So this is actually how they felt. They're from North Carolina. They're, you know, they're hilarious, actually. They're actually very funny. The videos are funny. You go back and watch it. And they got an offer to come up and be, I think, co-president of the Trump campaign. You know,
you accept something like that?
And
not only the Trump,
enemy dropping into the AR.
And it could go for any side. Like, if it was in line with your interests, and I don't think that's
that's why I'm saying like Diamond and Silk aren't fraud. They got an offer and they accepted it. Like, they actually used it before they ever got that offer. So I think it's ridiculous among the sellouts. They had different opinions and it worked out for them. You know, and they kind of I always try to isolate myself away from politics intentionally because I don't want people to have the right to say that she's bought and paid for, right? But I fully support Trump in my capacity. Like,
training's
I have my own show.
Time to see what you've learned.
That we do with any campaign. You know, it's private. You have to be a member of the Daily Wire show. That's what I but no, never paid me $1. So it's just made up nonsense. Like, she didn't come in.
I feel like even, like, trust me, I'm one of those people that, even if I was fucking with Trump, I would never say, like, I feel like a little bit better saying that shit, you know what I mean? So I do think we're at a moment where people could actually
survive, redeploy fallen teammates, and earn points to return them faster.
We're down and saying, hey, no, this is worth 4 years. What's up?
Right, and that's what his pitch was when he ran in 2016. That was what woke me up, is that I wasn't
targets are up. Take him out.
And then he gave that speech in Divondale, Michigan.
Clock's ticking. Make your way to the target.
Everything about Black American
Did he say like what's worse that could happen or some shit like that?
Black America, what do you have to lose? Just take a chance. And I thought that was the best pitch I had heard in a very long time. It was like, everything sucks for you right now. You know, you're at the bottom of the education, you're at the bottom of this, you know, going through all of the true statistics about Black America. Voting 60 years for Democrats has not served Black America. So what do you have to lose by just throwing something in a different bucket? And I said, that's a good enough pitch for me. And it turned out that things got great economically for Black America under Trump. Things got great, but the media, day in and day out, put a concerted effort into making you believe that everything he said was racist and that he was inspiring white supremacy everywhere. And
wait. I don't know about what you say about then I think, listen, I could be wrong, that's what I see. All the little stimulus checks that I think Trump wrote, like, to them, I don't know, like, giving away to, like, black people or whatever, well, giving away to certain people, economic.
Enemy UAV active.
That may have influenced, like, inflation now.
No, so they're saying that the very first before it happened, they also pressured them to do the lockdown, a 2-week lockdown, and then immediately that he then wrote the stimulus checks. First of all, I'm on record with saying that I understood that he was under pressure, and they were saying that he was going to die. Under no circumstances does the government ever have the right to do anything. Ever. I don't care who is the president.
Jam, I detected in your area.
I try not to be judgmental because at that time people were acting like it was going to be the next play. I don't believe
enemy contact.
But contact then at the end that's the reason.
Gas is inbound.
This is the pressure that we're in today is absolutely.
One of your allies
you're talking about choose the government shutdown versus what they tried to do. The entire first 2 years of the Biden administration. Right now, at the border, they're going to just replace you, so you're going to have to do anything. Like, it's a very, I don't even know, I have to look, we're done here. It's already gotten over. Contact! Biden.
Where do we get the numbers from? How do we know it's 2 million?
Because they're coming over the border and they're getting free little handouts.
One of your allies is back in the game.
You're getting little packets.
Enemy dropping into the AO. An enemy team is hunting. Don't become prey.
No, absolutely not. Right?
Enemy radar jammer detected in your
area. The Democrats are trying to replace Black America with Hispanic America. The exact same setup because too many Black Americans are waking up. They're actually they keep moving. They're going down. Hillary got 89%. Joe Biden got less than that. It's problematic. They can't dip below 85%, right? So they're just
back in the action.
People that they think are stupid and they're going to offer handouts. So that is
loadout drop inbound.
Investment fund just invested $60 million ideas. So the Black American vote is not going to matter for much longer. It's going to mean nothing, right? And that's why I felt this urgency.
Gas is closing in. Relocating the safe zone. 25 are left. Keep your eyes peeled.
You know, it's what I always hope to accomplish is I don't need to be like.
Most people trying to escape their cash. Go stop them.
That people. But I really do hope that people have a very short window of opportunity to wake up as Black Americans in this country, right? It's just the truth. And I will never forget what another Black American conservative, who I'm not going to name, said to me when I first got into this. He said, you know, eventually you're going to get to the point where you just give up on Black Americans. He said, he said this sadly, like, you know, he said, you're going to fight, and you're going to see that they're just not receptive, and the best that you can do is to continue to live, you know, your life the right way and to lead by example and just to accept that this is
Allied precision airstrike incoming.
They have
Be aware.
allowed themselves to become the permanent
resurging. Go get your revenge.
And I think it's sad that Black Americans are just, we're so talented, right? Like, we're so funny. We used to have
enemy dropping into the AR.
we're so thoughtful, like, we're so talented as athletes, like, there's just so much here that we really can just do so much greatness in this country, and yet we cannot see that is how we have developed this
and actually, it's kind of
one of your allies is back in the game.
Benefit you would think, right? Like, the feminism has turned into like more, you know, obviously.
Gas is inbound.
It was supposed to be the quality. Then it turned into fuck these dudes. Again, like fuck man. Which again, I think you. If I speak out on that, I'm misogynist, so I just gotta stay away from that. You speaking out on that, I'm wondering what the benefit or why.
Because feminism has basically been
we're inside the ring.
All the ills.
Stop to get noisy.
Enemy soldier nearby.
It's the feminists that
Contract confirmed. Let's get to work.
All by yourself.
Our intel says there's a black market nearby. Let's find it. Getting warmer. Black market store should be nearby.
Genocide. It would be what if it was the fact that so many Black Americans, the most unsafe place for Black Americans. Contact here. Was established by the what a eugenicist. She believed that the best way to ensure that the white population. It's true. You know, read about Margaret Sanger. Wanted to preserve the minority races, and she believed that there were undesirables that she put in society that should not be allowed to take well, they convinced you with your choice, but they put the
You've got a second chance. Make it now. Contract complete. Access to the black market store now available.
The right thing to do is to abort it, right? So you think it's your choice, and it's being
Squad member is redeploying.
Lock out. Moving.
Higher earners in America. That might have, there might be, while it's just a correlation, there might be some type of correlation.
Stay vigilant. Resurgence window is about to close.
Right? Every child you have is more money. That has to be that poor people have more children because they literally get more money. Poor people will foster children because they get more money. They foster children. That's the welfare.
The squad mates are all KIA. Keep fighting until they redeploy.
I'm just wondering why.
Reinforcements are on the way.
Like, I think it's kind of like no harm, no foul. Like,
Mercenaries are trying to escape with their cash. Go stop them.
That's the 18 people that didn't have a chance to live personally.
Gas is right on your tail.
Learn about abortion you rip them limb for limb. We have an abortion system that mirrors North Korea. Right?
You don't believe
it's like child sacrifice.
What about it's especially, and I'm going to give you the benefit of that.
Resurging. Go get your revenge.
My daughter.
Enemy.
It does something to hear say that let's face it, talking about the poison of the girl that's sitting in my stomach right from my life. She's living in my stomach right now. I have to birth her. I already knew her personality. Like I knew my son's personality. He was my son exactly like my husband. I was like, this kid, you know, every single appointment, the time we would go, he was like on the money, like the cameras were on. She's much more shy. Whenever she sends me a news scan, like she always hides from the cameras. She kicks less. She's just not, into like the theater. I knew my son's personality.
You're redeploying. Make it mean something. Hostile dropping into the area. Watch the skies.
Would you consider like
it's not a fetus, it's a human. You want to know how you know it's a human? And it's alive is because you have to kill it.
Some people would say like, oh, a couple months.
Enemy contact.
Gas
is moving.
I went in for my 11-week appointment and I saw my son with his arms and his legs dancing because that's technology now. They can just zoom in and access it. Like, these are the lies that we've been told by the Department of Education. And I'm happy for having
Enemy movement.
I can't explain.
Target's down.
Engaging hostile. No, but here's the thing.
10 remain. Victory is within reach.
Like, I grew up with the girls. I used to be pro-choice because I went to the Department of Education. I went through the public school system, and I know I didn't learn about what they did.
You're the last one alive. Survive at all costs.
But the girls that I knew that got abortions were getting it because they had pressure from boyfriends. Okay, they were getting it because they had pressure from their parents. The first time I was introduced to abortion, it was in my own family, like a family relative that had gotten pregnant at 16, and everyone, all of the adults came in and spoke. no, the men are getting abortion, okay? Like,
Hostiles dropping into the area.
And if you want real discussion about what abortion is, if we went into the education system and in health class where we were learning about one, the option of adoption, and so many people have adopted kids that are looking to adopt kids, and they're looking to establish that. The government makes it so difficult to be able to adopt a child, and if we learned about that in school, if we learned about the process of abortion, if we learned about how it harms women when they get abortions, how they suffer mentally.
Don't get comfortable.
And thank you for at least presenting that side. I never heard this side, right? Like, then I would say, at least we're having a more honest discussion. So far. Stick to me. Right now. Today I did it in front of me. What are you talking about? You've been keeping in here since I was 19 weeks pregnant. I can feel her. It's so bizarre. It's like, it's just not in my hand. And women hurt when we tell these lies. It's women that go through these procedures. It's women that get scenario. Of course, if you were talking about, the mother's health or the child's health, there are all different types of scenarios you can make up, and they should be looked at differently. But the truth is that we need to actually start having a discussion about what an abortion is. Let's start with just the truth, right? What the truth? Because I swear to you, if women knew the truth about the abortion industry, if women knew the truth about what happens to those children that are in their wombs, and if women knew the truth about the after effects of what happens when they get an abortion, you would decrease the abortion rate by 90%, and you would never even have to vote. That's how I feel. And especially because Black Americans are targeted, the history of it, if Black Americans knew the truth about Margaret Sanger and what she wanted for us, this woman spoke in front of the Ku Klux Klan. You guys have canceled everything else. Every other statue had to come down, but Planned Parenthood clinics get to stand? Wow. Everything had to go during the BLM riots, but Planned Parenthood clinics were still there. And the fact that they created exceptions during COVID lockdown, they wanted exceptions for the abortion clinics, right? This was not a choice. This was something that they then convinced you was a choice. This was a way to decrease the black population, and it's been successful. The black population today is stagnated. We're not growing. We're completely stagnated, and it's because we're having so many abortions.
What do you think about the morning after pill? Do you consider that contraceptive?
No, I mean, I don't know enough about the morning after pill, and I try to be very careful about not speaking out against things that I don't know enough about. But you can't become pregnant the day after. So, I mean, I know that it takes 9 days to actually them to travel and come together. So, I would quickly say that I think I'm okay with that, but I also don't want to speak about something I'm not educated about.
How do you get a relationship with
Twitter. Yeah, he tweeted, "I love the way Candace Owens thinks." The backstory of that is he was actually watching some YouTube videos of me, just like this, just having conversations about different topics.
Kanye's an independent thinker. Like most people wouldn't say that. Even if they do, listen, I co-sign. I agree with a lot of what you said, but I'm like, you know what? It's more rather than just saying it, and then now people are gonna just throw every one of her opinions on me. Like, you're just like her. You're just the cool.
Yeah.
Like, let me just sit down with her and. We'll probably agree on a bunch of stuff, but we
might disagree, and that's cool. That's totally cool. But Kanye, I absolutely have loved Kanye West. He's another person I listen to. And what's so wild about it is the story of how it happened. It makes you just really believe in the universe and the energy that you put out. Because when I decided to go into politics, I
use this time to train a bit. We'll be deploying soon.
And I literally every day I kept listening to Kanye's. Right after the whole battle happened. Friday Night Live.
Oh, well, it's gotta be on the Life of Pablo.
No. me.
Oh,
Power.
Oh, yeah, okay, Power. Okay.
Power. So I'm listening to this song every single day. Literally, it was the only song when I jumped into politics. It was only those two. That song, if you really want to get on your F the world, don't care what you think, listen to Power. It really is. And then suddenly,
Hostile dropping into the area.
I was
Watch the
listening
skies.
to Kanye's music, like all of his music, because he didn't know anything about Kanye, Charlie Kirk. And one day, I think politics. He's like, it's gonna be a beautiful day. Like, the imagery, by the way, of that is supposed to be 300.
That baby, like, yo, and fuck her too, like, you know, you never.
No, they sent me the tweet.
Oh, they sent you the tweet, okay.
And I thought it was like, I thought they were trying to be funny, like they doxed their tweet, like it was April Fool's. It was just, I love the way Candace Owens thinks. Yeah, and I thought they were just trying to be funny.
So how did you like connect with them?
First, I cried.
Really?
Yeah, I swear to God, it's so weird. I just cried. It was weird.
No way.
Yeah.
Why?
Because it was just. It was like to me, it felt like a signal from the universe that I was doing the right thing, or like that I was on the right path in a weird way. And I was just like, I was so overwhelmed with emotions that I just cried. I needed like 15 minutes to just cry. That first. And then I retweeted to you, and then we met up in LA.
Do you have those down days where like everything's just? I know you don't do like you're not on social media like all the time, are you?
No.
But like, you have those down days where like, man, just like how the other person who said conservative black was like, yo, you're gonna give up. At one point, we're like, man, fuck this. Like, what am I doing?
The stuff that bothers me, like the only time I get so frustrated is when literally black publications will just publish a lie, like something I never said. Like the one that drives me the craziest, people actually think I said racism doesn't exist. You know what doesn't exist?
I've seen that.
You know what doesn't exist? Any video or footage of me ever saying that. It was made up by the group. The group literally made it up. So what they did, and maybe this is like people not being able to read it like accurately, they put in the headline, Candace says, I've never been a slave, in quotation marks, which I did say in the speech. I said, I've never been a slave. That's an excerpt of what I said in the speech. And then they followed it by, so racism doesn't exist. So people took it to mean that I said this entire quote of, I've never been a slave, so racism doesn't exist. How stupid does that even sound? I've never been my entire life, right? And black Americans to this day, no, because they didn't technically lie, because they put the quotation marks around what I said, and then nothing, they don't have to. Because first off, I'm a public figure, and the standard is higher, for any type of like defamation is higher. It's a straight up lie, I've never said it, and that speech was, so it's what they took. The speech, go back and watch it, it was the CPAC speech that I gave in 2019. I stand by every word that I said. I spoke about slavery extensively. I never even used the word racism doesn't exist. I never even used racism in that speech at all. And and Black America ate that up. It was just a headline, you know?
Enemy soldier nearby.
That stuff really frustrates and angers me, you know? Because that lie, and everyone just keeps saying, she said racism doesn't exist. I'm like, I've never said that. In fact, I said the exact opposite. I have said racism is always going to exist because human beings are flawed. There's always going to be black people that hate white people that hate black people, Chinese people that hate Japanese people, Brazilians that hate Mexicans. This is humanity, right? The question is whether or not racism is stopping you from getting to point A to point B, right? And the answer is no. I don't believe that it is. I believe policies and lies and miseducation is what's preventing your life, and that's what I'm trying to reverse.
Do you feel like any like, you know, some of the backlash?
Enemy dropping into the AO.
I know I'm someone on Twitter. I stopped because if you allow it to affect your mood, you'll realize you'll go through these moods. It almost becomes literally a drug where it could give you extreme highs, but it could be very depressing times. Have you ever kind of like almost like just kind of
playtime's over. Stand by for deployment to the war zone.
From people or
hostile dropping into the area. Watch resurgence. Russian the safe zone. Got gas.
They'll be like, you know what, like, I'm gonna
allies will redeploy as long as you remain alive. You earn points to bring them back to the action
her edges are cleaned up, so she might have something to say. That's hilarious. Like, I laugh so hard. I can take a joke. I think that's funny. Yes, are you kidding? My cousins, I have
Primary objective is to eliminate all enemies. Attack!
Like, you know what I mean? Like, my whole life has been my cousin and punished my whole life. Like, my cousin would be like,
Only 25 remain.
she always switched me.
Located a supply box. Secure that position.
Really?
Yeah, it looks like her just followed us.
I never knew you had a well.
You can't come from a black family and not have a sense of humor.
Well, I think it's, for example, we imagine like, oh, Cardi B got when we see talk about a lot of serious shit, we're like, man, she's kind of straight edge, straight to the point.
No.
Like, you say something that, might not be. And also, I think people are a little scared of, like,
Enemy UAV active.
Yeah, they
They're like,
allow
you're
that
super
narrative
smart.
to be created about me, and they always have to put me on the defense when I walk into the room, because they are just like, oh, she's the enemy. But no, I'm a total clown. An absolute clown.
What do you think about AOC?
I think that she was authentic when she first appeared on the scene, like authentically stupid, like authentically believed that everything could be free, like an authentic socialist. Like, why can't things be free? We just have to tax more rich people, and like you can tax ourselves into prosperity. These are very dreamy, lovely ideas that are completely impractical and it's just not real. Especially like rich people aren't getting taxed enough. We talk about the upper 1% pays for 90% of all taxes. Like, these are just lies that just people keep saying. But now she's something else. She's accepted money. So happens to be going to see. She toes the line. She knows what she has to say. And she's at the end of the day, she knows that her policies are hurting Black America, right? If she was authentic, then right now she would say, Joe Biden is effing up, right? I don't care where you stand. If you cannot authentically say that this is the worst economy we've been in.
You gotta play the game of politics.
But that's the problem. So she's a liar, right? So now you're corrupted. It's not playing the game. She got on and she said on CNN, because I had to respond to it. She said that, I think Joe Biden is doing a really good job. Now you're an actor.
That's why.
Now you're an actor.
Like, for example, look at Pence. I think Pence kind of. I don't think he's fucking Trump at all. Like, I think he just kind of stays out of being in that Republican system.
No, that's just how Pence is. He's very, he's
You aren't done yet.
a deeply faithful Christian.
Enemy UAV active.
He is a very good person.
But I don't think he'll lie. Like, one
He
thing
would never lie.
Like,
she lied. Like, she actually has actively lied. She sold you the poison pill of poverty, and now she's telling you that the poverty pill tastes good.
We're inside the ring.
That's evil, right? Like, you know that people are suffering. You told them, you're black, you're Hispanic, follow me. You follow me off the cliff. And I'll go off the cliff.
Enemy UAV active.
And they're drowning, and they're like, oh my God, please save me. And you're like, you're not drowning. It's great. Everything's great. We're just having a swim party. That's what AOC is doing right now. Like,
well,
she
you
can't
think
even
she
acknowledge
genuinely
it.
believes it?
No, not anymore. You can see in her face. You can see in her face how she answers the questions. You can always read someone's mannerisms to tell. You just feel, you're like, the energy of that right there is just like, I'm accepting dollars. I think Joe Biden's doing an incredible job. He's doing very well. And they, what do you mean? Nobody can think that.
Enemy precision airstrike. Stay alert.
What's going to happen?
Loadout drop headed your way.
I would never, ever.
Your chance to destroy the radar trap. Gas is inbound. Marking new safe zone.
They're Republicans, I'm going to back this up. I don't do that. Because the
Got a few shells here.
things I want to be able to help out, and I have. I'm a problem. I don't support this person, I don't support that person. When Trump did the thing of the 2-week shutdown, I was against it. I said it's not appropriate. I don't need to do this. He's not being a politician. Right?
What do you think about Kamala Harris?
She's an absolute idiot.
Why?
I don't know why. You guys don't hear about that. She is shocking how stupid she is. She's so impotent. Like, she's done
She was
absolutely.
praised by the black community. Like, we got a strong black woman in there that's very intelligent. The only thing I'll say, I felt like she definitely did disappear though. Like,
Enemy UAV active.
It's kind of like she's
Sworn in as Indian American, then all of a sudden wants to run for vice president, and now she's black. Like, I can't stand that stuff. It's just so fake. Everything's fake.
wait. She was sworn in as what?
Indian American. Go look back at the congressional footage of when Kamala Harris is sworn in, and she has her family there wearing saris, and somebody's something about the first, or not the first Indian American. It was all about her being an Indian American,
Yeah,
and then she switched up when it was time to run because it's like now being black is like a better thing to be.
kind of like, I ain't gonna lie, when Biden was the vice president for a while, I was with that.
They don't love each other. They're yeah.
You did not like your vice president?
Yeah. She felt like all the border stuff was doing stuff on her. He made her the border czar. They don't get along behind her. And she's not. I think more to realize that she's actually a lot dumber than she's likable, by the way.
Yeah, her girl, I mean, and like, she kind of felt what came across was that
Enemy UAV active.
respect that she felt she wasn't getting.
Yeah.
And that was interesting.
And respect is earned.
Are you getting, so you're not getting the vaccine?
No. None.
It's
Zero.
hurting my food out.
Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? You guys want the Biden
Taking
administration
fire!
fighting to remask you on planes, so because power.
Positive ID on the bounty
This is what you
target.
think about it.
Let's make this quick.
This is 100% going to get this episode slapped with the Joe Rogan Kogan sticker.
Rogan COVID, it's so true.
That is what it is. Yo, by the way, do you know how it works now? Like,
Spotted an enemy radar jammer in your area.
and then publish it, right? They just automatically have a transcript. They have like some bot that just says almost every word you say.
They find the word. Yeah, 100%.
So wait, I was gonna get it, and I'm gonna tell you, I didn't get it. Like everybody in my family got it. I was gonna get it really for my mom.
Get to the
My
new
mom
safe
got it.
zone. Gas is closing
You
in.
know, obviously she's watching the news every night, and she's like, "No, I would feel a little bit better if you got it, because you know we're still talking about family." But I kind of felt shitty. I'm like, imagine something's happened to my mom, and I kind of delayed it, and then poof, shit's kind of went away. Like, I don't know anybody's gonna get the vaccine. You know what I mean?
Political.
Went away.
Yeah, because the government wanted, I mean, it was the greatest money laundering operation ever, right? They were going to pay for the free vaccine, no, not free vaccine, that's your tax dollars, okay, that were slotted. They purchased these emergency vaccines that are life-saving from Pfizer and from Moderna, and this is how money gets made, you know?
Why didn't you get it? Because some would argue this, right? Some would argue this. Well,
Stay vigilant.
and
Resurgence window is
very
about to
popular argument
close.
saying that you probably take a lot of things, or a lot of pills, or a lot of medication in your life today, and especially pregnant, that you might not know everything about. Why do you hold this particular medication or vaccine?
First off, my child is not vaccinated at all. So I got injured by vaccine when I was 20 years old, which meant a lot. And when I hit the floor and passed out and had a mini seizure in the room with my doctor, that was my wake up. I said, what the heck did I even get? Why did I get the shot? It takes about
25 remain. It could have lasted longer. They yourself that time, but we'll settle the score.
They're drug dealers. They're drug dealers. They make money. $1 trillion industry, right? And they completely lie to people and create new fears that you're gonna die, right? So I don't mess with that.
I'm gonna be honest, this is
Right. Go check me. Didn't buy it for 1 second. And
there was a college that I lived at that time. I lived right across the street from a college, and there was lines like around several blocks of cars just lined up, and I was just like, am I messing up here?
No, not me.
The only thing, if I wasn't scared of needles, I would have probably got it. But
I
now
will never get a vaccine ever again in my life. None of them. 0. So I'm consistent on that. Once you get injured by a vaccine, go speak to any parent whose child's been injured, or if it's happened to you, and let them try to gaslight you and not tell you that this is poison, and then you start researching and you realize it's the same game since polio. The media puts out these scary stories and tells everybody they're all going to die. Everybody gets in line and gets the shot, and money is given. The government, we're going to have to give trillions of your tax dollars. I'm making up a number here, but billions of tax dollars to fight COVID. And then the pharma execs get richer. 9 new billionaires are richer.
Any vaccine?
I don't believe in any vaccines. I do not get any vaccines. I am anti-vax, if you want to call me that. I don't care. I have the healthiest child. Yeah, I didn't get. Yeah. And you know what? I also had what's the name of the basketball player that I had on the show? On my show the other day? No, the basketball player. This is Jonathan. Why am I blanking on his last name?
I remember I unwillingly had to take a vaccine. The reason why I was thinking
Should you
about
ever be forced to put something in your body?
well, I had to take one. So I was born in Jamaica. To come over here, you have to take a bunch of vaccines.
Yeah, but which is wild. Yeah.
Right here, and I don't even know what it's for.
Yeah.
I gotta go Google it, but like it's one of those vaccines that if you're from another country, you came over here, you had to take it.
Right.
And I just remember it was like shot day, and I was just like, hopefully this is good.
Yeah, and that's crazy. We're uneducated and we're getting all of these vaccines, right? And this one was the craziest because they let them pass through the approval process. They said it was an emergency. And this is why they blocked all people that were talking about productive treatment, because they wouldn't have gotten the emergency use authorization if there was any treatments that were working. So that's why they started talking about ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, because if people were like, oh, I got better from ivermectin, which many people I know did, like Joe Rogan, this is why this whole scandal happened. He's like, I got better, right? If people started taking ivermectin and were getting better, then they wouldn't have had their emergency use authorization, which allowed them to skip through all the trials. I mean, look at Justin Bieber and Hailey Bieber, back to back, having this face paralysis. Do you guys see this one 25-year-olds where their face just go paralyzed? He's 28 years old. His wife, a couple of months prior, had a brain
clot. He might be on drugs. I want you to know.
He's not.
No. When I mean drugs, he might be on some stuff. This is Hollywood. Like, he could be taking stuff.
Do you think back to back, him and his wife had two of the things that happen when you get the shot? Listed in the FDA documents.
How do you like what's the official side effects?
Do you have time? I certainly don't.
Well, I had the government acknowledge those.
Yes, they had to, but we had to fight to even get that. We had to take them to court to release the data, get the FDA to release the data on what they were seeing. And they were seeing Bell's palsy. They were seeing people's faces go paralyzed and the sign that they got the shots. They were seeing, of course, obviously myocarditis. All of the kids now they have the warning of like your child can get myocarditis. If your child gets COVID, they're going to be fine.
Wait, that facial paralysis thing?
Yes, Bell's palsy is one of the things listed. Right? This is stuff that should be in the media, that we should be talking about, but they've essentially tried to censor. Now, when they were forced to release documents, they fought they tried to say that we don't want to release any of these documents for 10 years. They actually tried that. Pfizer and the FDA tried to censor these documents from the public, and while at the same time they were forcing you to go get the injection. You want to talk about informed consent? Like, I mean,
what would you have done? Like many Americans that I know, that they probably said, hey, listen, I don't really know about this vaccine. I don't really want to take it, but not necessarily was mandated, but for them to go back to work, they had to.
It's sad.
Right?
That is the government putting a gun to your head, right, to make you take something that you don't want. That's a crime. That should be described as a crime.
Did it affect you in any type of way? Where like
no, because I run my own businesses. I run my own businesses, and I live in Tennessee. Tennessee never even had a mask mandate.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Never?
Never had the governor never issued a mask mandate.
Oh no, New Jersey.
Yeah, depending on where you live, that's how you do what's political. Were all the kids in Tennessee dying? No. Well, I would call my sisters live in Connecticut, and I'm like, you guys are still masking? I couldn't believe it. And I was like, where is the outrage from people here in Connecticut going, hey, in the South, they haven't had mask mandates for over a year, and you're still masking us?
That's what I started like in Florida. I went to Florida, and I was like, they were looking at me like, what's wrong with this?
Did they all die? Did all the kids die? So why are your children being masked because of where you live? This is how you know it's political. In every Democrat state, they kept the mask mandates. Fought tooth and nail to keep that happening. Why? Okay, again,
I still don't know where it went. Because I don't hear about no more, like, unless we just we got to the vaccination limit where like we're all like immune now.
They could justify the purchase that the government made. These are deals that are being done by executives behind closed doors. You know what I mean? They're saying Pfizer will give you X amount of doses. Well, you can't just have X amount of doses sitting rotting on the shelf. So they force people to take it. This is absolutely insane. For something that for me, I had it twice, was a 48-hour cold. Like literally a 48-hour cold. Like I can't even do it. And then everybody like got the vaccine. Could you ever? They even changed the definition of vaccine to CDC.
Did you have one where like you couldn't spell it? That scared the shit out.
My husband.
Enemy in the shipping area.
What?
Yeah.
Team deathmatch.
That was the first
Here
wave.
they come. Attack.
He was on at the time, and he was so amazed at the fact that he couldn't taste that he wanted to keep her in the fight stuff. He was like, I want to not he's like super hot.
Hell no, I was thinking, I'm like, yo, this might be it.
And he lost weight. Yeah, like, it's not enjoyable right now.
Yeah, everything tastes like cardboard, but I was like,
Reloading.
Here?
Reloading.
Changing bags.
Psychologically traumatized. It never made any sense, by the way. Now you think that's different.
Enemies the compound.
No, that's what they're telling you. And you go and you look, and they were telling you, oh, we calculated it 75 hard, and then they changed in the medical examiner's office how they calculate it. So regularly, you hit by a car, they write down hit by a car. They were forcing you to test every person. So these tests were dial-up, the PCR test, and if you got hit by a car, you were registered as COVID death. They found COVID in your system. No, you didn't know this? This was a big scandal.
Contact! Gunshot.
They established the rule that every person has COVID. Okay. So if you died with the people that were living in cars, PCR test, which is the shadiest test ever. Okay? Then they also have COVID. So they considered COVID. They also have COVID. It was literally
I had no symptoms, and I was just kind of. I thought it was a false positive, but I
have to reload.
One of the ways you could catch it and like feel completely normal.
That's not normal. You just say you like you're totally fine. Like that's crazy. That's literally crazy. That's just a thing.
I don't know. I guess they were saying you're a carrier, so you could pass it on.
Yeah, and then now they say that's actually not so. They had it wrong.
Enemy shield turret on the field.
I have to reload.
I mean, the entire thing was such medical fraud. It was unbelievable, and I really talk about it. And you know, obviously, there was that podcast.
What's your thoughts on the what's that name? January 6th? Everybody talking about January 6th with Trump.
What are your thoughts?
Contact. Okay, so I haven't seen this I think a lot of things changed because of that. I don't think Trump told no one to do anything. Like we've had enough, and that happened, and that's
Nothing happened when they got into the Capitol. What actually happened?
Oh, it was. I heard it was so big.
Reloaded.
They've reached the halfway point. Get moving.
No, nobody died. Nobody died. Well, the girl, the only person that died on that day, shot by Ashley Babbitt, she was Trump's supporter. Right? She was literally shot.
Security or cops that night.
No, there were two cops that were like days after from a stroke. It had nothing to do with
Enemy
it.
UAV overhead.
The fake news narrative said that he was fortunate to death. What was shocking to me is I was at the GCN right? And also I started getting all these phone calls from my parents and from my cousins and being like, are you okay? I'm like, what are you talking about?
Enemy at the warehouse.
Literally, we were like not okay when the Black Lives Matter. They were outside flipping cars, burning down restaurants.
Enemy counter UAV. We've lost radar.
Cars were smashed.
Enemy UAV overhead.
Rioting in DC.
Which do you think is worse? I guess some
I'm telling you
people
what was worse.
well, not worse in violence, but some people might say worse to have on the actual government that rules the country or wherever you're at over
I have to reload.
First and foremost, there's a lie. The biggest lie is that people were killed, police officers were killed. It literally never, Brian said that. Literally the entire lie. Actually, yeah, this officer did not die. Days later, right? They scaled the lie, right? A bunch of grandmas entered the Capitol building. Some of them were a lot of questions surrounding how involved the FBI was.
Enemy at the warehouse.
Never talked about dropped off. DC, which is the most surveilled city in the entire world, was dropped off at the DNC and RNC headquarters. They can't figure out who it was.
Enemy shield turret on the field.
They couldn't have gone off, but there was a hooded
Enemy
figure
UAV.
the night before, January 6th. So January 6th, dropped this off. Okay, it looks like an FBI tape, to be honest with you. If something is shady and nobody no, but the way that it's DC, there's a camera on every
Enemy close to strike. Take cover.
Okay? So this is how it makes me feel that
Enemy at the shore.
Enemy at the warehouse. Don't look at the headlines, okay? Brett Kavanaugh being confirmed. Okay, you want to talk about insurrection? Like they were the handmaid. Literally got on top of statues, stormed the building, interrupted the vote.
Enemy Wilson deployed.
They were getting arrested. They were sitting in
I have to reload.
Getting arrested. They weren't going to move, and they were screaming, saying, "My rape, blah 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 blah." Media said these were the bravest women. Media interprets what you see, and that is why I'm constantly trying to tell people.
Fight forward is yours.
And they sanctioned it. The Democrats, they need more of this. Women are brave. They're standing up. They said he can't be suspended under any circumstances.
Reloading.
Not totally fine.
Enemy sentry
A
gun
bunch of
active.
grandmas
Take us
with
out.
flags fucking inside the Capitol. They didn't even break down the road. No, the road. They don't even the road. I'm not saying that. It's okay, by the way.
No,
Enemy
this
precision
is
airstrike.
it's kind of like, we're on standby, kind of like,
Care package inbound.
right?
They have failed. Return to base.
And I'm pretty sure it's an official publication that was out, and it was like, oh. Like, it sounds ridiculous.
It all is ridiculous. And that's the point, is that I genuinely believe in my heart of hearts that January 6th, and I know Tucker Carlson did a documentary on this, I think it was
See next
set up
time,
by
man.
CIA and FBI. I really do. It doesn't make it defies logic to me. The only thing that will change my position on this is them arresting whoever was responsible for the pipe bombs. Because I live in DC, there's a camera on every single corner. You're talking about the White House, the Capitol building, okay? And you're gonna tell me that a hooded figure just dropped off pipe bombs and walked away and they have no idea who it is? They know exactly who it is. They know exactly who it is. Chaos was the point of January 6th, and I think it was planned before it. And I think it was as a way to kind of like get this Trump narrative coup right before, I really do believe that. I believe that on the inside,